We really like our music. She's got a whole dance down now. This is her way of making fun of me. It's from the 80s.
Wait, then this is Dimitri's?
Here's my move. Wait, here it comes. Right? All right, we're back here with MITA's podcast, MITA Unshackled, still in Berlin, Germany at the ICBC, and we're honored to be joined by, Dimitri Downing here with my co-host.
Destiny Nicole Blanco.
And?
Giadha DeCarcer.
And your voice sounds great. No, she's
long
saying
story.
she has like a tired voice because she was up late, but that's a great, your voice inspires me.
It's like the voice where you can record a song.
I speak very slow.
All right.
Giadha is an industry legend, so it's fantastic to see her here in ICBC after, I think we haven't seen each other for a year or two, and we've known each other for many years. And you've done some incredible things, built one of the most important companies in the international cannabis industry. Congratulations. We'll talk about it in a second.
Thank you.
But let's let me stop talking and get to you. Giadha, tell us about Giadha. And usually I start with cannabis, but you have a very interesting background. So let's kind of start from before that. Where did you come from and how did you get into cannabis?
Let's see. I'm going to try to keep it simple. So I was born in Italy. My mom is Cuban, so I'm half Italian, half Cuban. I was raised in France and Spain, Switzerland, and then I ended up in the U.S. for college. So I feel like I'm a citizen of the world, for better or for worse.
Where did you go to college?
Undergrad, I went to University of Pennsylvania, and then I got my master's from Georgetown.
Master's from Georgetown. Went to Boston University myself. So. Nice. Okay, so we can go from there. So after that actually worked really well. After your master's degree, you went off to do what career?
So I've had, I ended up in the cannabis industry almost by accident. There was a convergence of things that I had tried and didn't fit perfectly with what my life direction, what I wanted to do.
You want to get a little closer here?
Is this better?
Oh, yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Can
you feel it now, Mr. Krabs?
No, you have a great voice, so we want to make sure people can hear your voice.
I'm so sorry that I lost my voice, but it's the price of spending 3 days at the cannabis conference at ICBC.
Yes.
Worth every second.
I blame me.
So I ended my first career, as I like to call it, was in intelligence collection, working for the government and sourcing information for national security matters. And then I also did a study in banking. And the cannabis industry was basically, I found an opportunity to combine my passion for truth-seeking and data collection and my understanding of analytics and the finance and the economics world in an industry where there was no sort of, I'm going to say glass ceiling, right?
Yeah.
Where a woman, especially a woman of color, could come in and start at the same, from the same place as any other man or woman. And so that's what brought me to it. I wasn't part of the movement because of my work in government. I actually wasn't even that familiar with cannabis. Sure, I have become very familiar and a big
About
a
what
big
year?
believer
What
since.
year was this when the exploration kind of started?
I started New Frontier Data August 15 of 2014.
2014. Okay, keep going.
And as they say, the rest is history. New Frontier Data, we've been around for now almost a decade.
Yeah.
The mission has always been to bring transparency to the industry through objective and responsible data collection and information providing. Our reports are in fact free because information, the distribution and sharing of good information is what we hope helps operators and legislators and anyone in the industry make responsible and educated decisions.
Right.
Now I'm in Europe looking at the emergence of the industry here, which is very exciting, and so we'll continue to do our best to continue to provide transparency.
So, yeah, transparency, accountability, those are two of the buzzwords of MITA. And, financial transparency, financial accountability, collection data, all that leads, it's all interwoven. One of our things about MITA is bringing people together and bringing them out in the open so that we can see what they're doing. But this is another way. So, I mean, this is so you can see inside people's and the reality of what's going on, which is really cool. Tell us about the evolution. When you started New Frontier, you're, a skilled professional with all this knowledge, all these ideas, and you said, "This is what I want to do." What happened next? And then tell us about the evolution in New Frontier.
So that's a really interesting question, one that I haven't been asked in a while. When I started New Frontier, I had
We
this.
try to educate people. So
Doing a good job.
no, people get hope through learning and hearing these stories. Because there was a day when you were just I was about to say beautiful, intelligent woman, but I said just intelligent, skilled professional with an idea,
That's right.
and you had to do something.
That's right. So, truth is, it's my fifth company. So this was not my first rodeo. I had given a shot at the entrepreneurial journey before, not in the cannabis industry, in the data and technology space, with various degrees of success, but nothing at the level that New Frontier Data has become today. When I started New Frontier Data, the vision in my mind, based at what I knew, and there wasn't a lot that I could know because there wasn't a lot for me to read to understand the industry, was to create the Bloomberg of cannabis, is what I called it in my mind, because I was a Bloomberg user. I came from the finance world, and I figured money's coming in, states are legalizing, people need to understand sort of the risk in investment. That very early on, I realized that there was no appetite for anyone to pay for that service, and that it was going to be very expensive to create it to begin with. And so the company has gone through various levels of evolution, where we had to adapt with not only the data that was available, so to work with what we had, but also adapt to the actual appetite of the audience that had an appetite for mature reporting. Today, I'm happy to say that the cannabis industry is at the level where there is absolute mature appetite for information and for sophisticated reporting. So Bloomberg of Cannabis becomes something that is very relevant. Today, I would say we're more the Gardner meets Bloomberg, because there's the quant, and then there's also the information, the more qualitative reporting. And then, of course, now today we also have opened up to studying and understanding the cannabis consumer behavior, so that we can also create a bridge to the larger food and beverage, health and beauty firms that are looking at engaging with the cannabis consumer and creating products to meet cannabis consumer demand in and out of cannabis.
You guys have always been known as one of the number one companies in this space. How, like, is it difficult to get people to share their data? I mean, and you said it has been more mature. There's the want, the level of maturity and the need and the desire to understand it, the importance as an industry. It's sophisticated. The maturity is there, but the methodology is still evolving.
So I used to say early on, like in 2015, 2016, that every time I met a company or an organization and asked them for their data, I felt like I was asking them to show me their underwear. It was
Right.
very
Give
awkward.
me your social security.
Right. It was very awkward and uncomfortable.
Right.
That's not the case today, actually.
Yeah.
There is a lot of appreciation, even from newcomers, of the power of information. And most understand that their own data is not working for them. So there are people at this point, I think, in the industry and elsewhere, but in the industry, understand the value of sharing that data to get that data to bring value back.
Right.
You mentioned methodology. We bring the methodology, so we're very committed to that. What is very challenging today, the biggest challenge is actually in having infrastructure to source data in the type of volume and in the type of quality and standardization where we can do true long-term projection and predict long-term. So what's really lacking is not so much the single operator with information, is the city, the county, the nation, with an infrastructure for data collection and reporting that allows for better understanding at a greater scale and at a global scale, and for a longer period of time. That is lacking. And many of us are working at that. Metric is, we have here Giadha that's working on that, New Frontier Data is working on that. We need to figure out how to go that final step on creating true infrastructure to facilitate data collection and distribution on a greater scale again.
Partnerships, collaboration, and relationship building must be everything for you.
Everything, and always has been.
That's just so challenging. I mean, because I remember I come from the old
And
school,
so rewarding.
and it's fun too.
Yeah.
I come from the
Yeah.
old school dispensary days. My brother and my dad started the first dispensary in Sedona, and for
I didn't
3 years
know
there, yeah, 2012, 2015, and then they sold their interests and stuff. So
Very cool.
that's when I realized I was an employee,
Way back when you were working for somebody?
not an owner. That's when I learned about the private sector.
Yep.
I was a prosecutor before that. But the challenges are so many. The regulatory changes, the existence of the gray market, the black market, which gives no structure, gives no information there. Nobody's sharing information there, but yet touches so many consumers and patients that aren't even yet identified. How do you sleep at night? How do you wrestle with all those issues? Do you have a big team?
I have the most fabulous team.
Yeah.
And any entrepreneur, who's had any degree of success knows that it's all about the team. So no, actually I sleep really well. I sleep 9 hours like a baby. Not so much last night. Um, but no, I have a really good team, and I've been very fortunate to be able to bring folks together from the industry, but also to bring people from my former lives in other industries and to bring them in. And they've become true experts and leaders and pioneers in their own right, and have really helped sort of ask the hard questions and think outside of the box. The other thing that I'm very proud of is I have a very diverse team. And I think that the cannabis industry is so unique, and it moves so fast, and it's so volatile, and it's gone global overnight, that to have that very diverse group of people with that very diverse thinking has allowed us to minimize those blind spots and truly stay ahead of the curve with the type of reporting we do and the types of questions that we ask.
What's the best way for people to get involved with New Frontiers?
So you should all come visit us at our website, www.newfrontierdata.com. Download some of our free reports. There's a lot of information, a wealth of information, as they say. Knowledge is power. And then you can also connect with us at info@newfrontierdata.com if you have more specific questions that may not be addressed in some of our free reporting. We also have the availability to subscribe to direct access to our database and our indices on Equio, EQUIO.
Can anybody have access to that?
Well, it's a paid subscription. We do have a free trial, but yes, anyone.
You can use the free trial.
Yeah, I'm definitely on that.
You know what? I think you know someone. I think we can hook you up.
I think I know the owner.
No, but it's really cool. So what is the? And I gave you an S. I said New Frontiers. It's New Frontier.
New Frontier Data.
I think you mentioned to me the other night we were chatting. You guys are working on a new project or a new company or something. You want to tell us a little bit more about that?
So we recently
is that a
launched.
secret?
No, it's not.
Okay.
No, it's not. And thank you for asking.
Yeah.
We've recently launched the ad tech division of the company. So traditionally, we've done a lot of reporting on the finance, microeconomics, but really sort of for financial stakeholders, I call them. We also had some legislative studies. But we've entered now the space where I had mentioned earlier. You have this phenomena of the L'Oreals, the Nestles, the Johnson & Johnsons, right? The food and beverage and the health and beauty, large multinationals that are looking to understand the cannabis consumer. And so we launched NextTech, which is the ad tech division of New Frontier Data that specifically focuses on collecting and analyzing information pertinent to the cannabis consumer. What do they buy? Why do they buy? What do they click at? Why do they click at? And profile sort of the various behaviors to enable really sort of the creation of that bridge and that connectivity between the very unique cannabis consumer. The cannabis consumer is truly a very unique group, unlike any other archetype that we've seen in the last 20 years. And so allowing sort of the health and beauty and the food and beverage companies that are looking to engage and serve this sector to better understand and make the right choices. So that's NextTech.
And how do you spell that?
NXTECK.
And do you find that governments work? Are they easy to work with because they have a lot of data?
I mean, really, did you just ask me if governments are easy to
Well,
work
I
with?
mean,
What do you think?
I don't like governments in general, but I mean,
Trick question.
In Arizona, you can't get any information because of the different laws that we have. But how do you find that process? Because it seems like you get a lot of your best information from.
Well, it's a bit of a tricky question, or maybe it's tricky for me to answer it. We work more, I would say we work directly with government in the way that we brief Congress a lot. Like we try to keep staffers in Washington. In fact, we're headquartered in Washington, D.C. We try to keep them informed and provide them the latest and greatest, especially if we know that there are particular meetings or things happening where that neutral, objective, fact-based information is going to provide a good, responsible foundation. So that's our most direct access. But in terms of how we get information back, most of our access is indirect at this point in the United States. In other nations, we do actually get more direct access to some of the data that's available. In the United States, not so much.
And I forgot to mention that you work around the world.
We cover over 120 nations.
That's a lot of nations.
Yes, it is. Not all of them that have fully legalized, obviously, right? Only about 70 or so. But even those decriminalizing or in the process of decriminalizing or legalizing are markets that we monitor just to make sure that we can be ahead, know where the opportunity arises.
Is there a division called New Frontier Consulting?
We do some advisory work, but there is no New Frontier
Advisors.
There
It would seem that there should be. I'm not, I'm a little cuckoo sometimes, but
I come from one of my past businesses that I mentioned before was a consulting firm. We do provide advice in some specific large-scale projects,
right.
but we don't necessarily have a consulting arm. We really want our researchers and analysts to be sort of working and scratching their head on big questions that have impact on the industry as a whole.
Right.
When there are particular private sort of projects that have a larger impact, we're interested, especially if it's a question that hasn't been answered before. But we don't do as much advisory work as we did early on.
But I mean, it seems to me that you are one of the most knowledgeable people in cannabis in general. Just as,
I don't know
as
about
a
me.
human.
My team does.
Well, as a human,
It's
your
a
members, members of your team are really knowledgeable too. I've met them throughout the years in different places. But then, as an institutional organization, you have all this information, and people have access to it. They have trouble understanding it and knowing how the industry works and what it means. It would seem like there'd be a natural division.
And there was. So I'm
there-
going to speak to you very sort of from a business perspective.
Yeah.
Consulting advisory is very labor intensive. I have a technology company.
Right.
So that model is really, we invest in great minds to ask those big questions. Right.
Right.
So we have an incredibly talented team of researchers and analysts led by John Giadha, our Chief Knowledge Officer, who's an incredible
Nice
man.
title.
Yeah, I know. I remember the day that I gave it to him. He's like, well, what's that? I'm like, that's you, John.
You got the knowledge.
Yeah, the most knowledgeable person in cannabis. And then we invest in the technology to make sure that we can keep that volume and that scale and that
Right.
real time. But a consulting firm is a different business model.
Right.
Consulting firm is all about people. So more project, more people. And that's just not where we want our focus to be. We want our focus to be on few people, big questions,
But you got
and technology.
You got your team handling everything right now, right?
Yeah.
So we should do New Frontier Consulting.
He's pushing it. He's pushing it, getting his foot in the door.
I'm just saying. I'm
We
just
need
saying.
to talk. I get it. We need to talk.
No,
We'll
I'm just
talk.
thinking out there.
Offline.
We take the show on the road.
All right.
No, because there's a lot of
Over tequila.
people. We're having a big trip to Oaxaca.
Oh my God! You should
We'll tell her about.
come.
We'll tell her about
She's
Oaxaca.
coming.
We can talk about Oaxaca on air, I guess. But no, let's wrap things up so people know you're physically located most of the time in.
So New Frontier Data is headquartered in Washington, D.C. We have a presence in 3 continents, in Latin America, in Europe, and North America. I am currently based out of Italy. We're in Berlin. So a lot happening in Europe. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time traveling around Europe. But of course, I go back to the U.S.
And you're Southern Italy.
And I am in Calabria, southern Italy, sunny southern Italy.
See how I'm slowly trying to narrow it down. She's like,
New Frontier Consulting, south of Italy. I'm getting the memo.
she's
Italy,
like,
Europe,
she's like,
U.S.
she's like, you go to D.C. and talk to my team. Go.
She's doing what you do to people.
Yeah, you know what? It's okay. She has the absolute authority and right to.
David, talk to her.
I deserve to be. Anyways, so did we get your website down? We're gonna put it all digitally,
Yep. Click her face here. Go to her website directly.
and there'll be an email there.
Email as well.
All right. Well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you for joining us. And it's New Frontier, not New Frontiers.
New frontier data.
Is data or data?
Well, potato, potato.
Yeah, no,
It's
tomato,
data.
tomato. Destiny, destiny.
Yeah, you probably get bored with that question, right? That's the first time I've been able to say is it data or data, but I don't think about that too much. But thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure,
And-
always.
And
Yeah.
enjoy Berlin, and we'll probably see you at MJ Impact or MJ BizCon or one of these other shows coming up as we see your people across the industry, and it's a thrill just to see you again.
And I hope that you'll make it to ICBC Croatia. That should be cool too.
When is that?
I believe it's in September.
I've heard
Thought about it.
but I could tell you right now if I knew the exact dates. I've heard it sometime in September. I just
It's
don't know
in
the
a
exact dates.
castle.
I could-
Let's do it.
I'm a queen, so I do have to be there.
I feel this. I feel like a princess, but queen is good too.
I think Prague for sure.
You might be right.
I think Prague. We're probably gonna make it to Prague,
Okay.
that conference out there, because
Okay.
I'm also interested. The consumers and the patients, and it's a little bit of a festival event for the Prague thing.
That's
And
great.
so, like Mary Jane and Cannabis,
Yeah,
I like
yeah.
to constantly learn about the consumers and just firsthand, not through all the
Maybe
data
I'll
that
see
you
you
guys
there
have.
then, because that's a good one too.
Yeah, and there's also we just found out about one from the Uruguayan folk over there. Have you talked to them?
I have not. That's one of the stops I want to make.
That is
I was waiting for my voice to slowly come back.
the,
It's happening slowly.
the Thailand delegation and the Uruguayan delegation very well represented, and they have a ton of good people and a ton of information, and they would definitely go. I want to talk to them, but they're having an event in December.
Fantastic. Oh, I'm going to India in December.
Yeah. So I didn't see any Indian delegation, but anyways,
Not
so
yet.
We'll figure it out. We will meet again.
Sounds good. My pleasure. Thank you for everything you guys
Thank
are doing.
you.
And
Thank you for
always a
joining
pleasure
us.
to meet you.
Always. Thank you.